some very exciting and potentially surprising news for you. I am now the proud owner of an e-reader. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. So I just got a package in the mail that I'm extremely excited about, and it is the Boox Go 6 that is still in the box. So I figured it could be really fun to unbox this and to talk a little bit about my thoughts. So for the past couple of months, I've been really interested in e-readers. And that is coming from someone who has been staunchly against the concept of e-readers for a long time. Not on a moral level, but more on like a preference level of I just value the physical experience of reading a book on paper. And I've always been very tactile. So I always thought that e-readers were just looking at another screen, and I couldn't imagine myself using them. But recently, after doing a lot of research on which e-reader that I thought would be the best for my needs and my preferences, I ended up purchasing an e-reader to try out. So I purchased the Boox Go 6, which is still in the box. So I'm gonna unbox this here on camera and talk a little bit about my review, as well as vlog a little bit about my experience and give you some thoughts about how I feel about an e-reader once I've spent some time with it. So when I was doing some research about the different companies who make e-readers and the specs of each one, what each one offers, what I found is that I'm probably only going to use the library for ebooks. Now, that's not to say that I'll never purchase an ebook, but I also knew that I did not want to be locked into a particular system, particularly Kindle. Just with all of the craziness going on with Kindle right now and Amazon, I did not want to get another Amazon product and support Kindle. So I knew I didn't want to be locked into that ecosystem, but I also knew that I didn't want to be locked into any ecosystem. And I know that the Kobo brand has a lot of benefits and looked really nice too. But what I heard from multiple sources is that you can not log into multiple library cards at the same time on the Kobo because it's not an app, it's just built into the software. And as someone who is an aggressive library user and has multiple cards that they use, I really needed the flexibility of being able to download the actual app and use it as I would on my phone. So that's what led me to the company Boox. In terms of which one I chose, I really didn't want something with crazy features or something that was going to be really, really pricey. This one was already more pricey than some of the other e-readers on the market doing similar things. This one was $150. But it runs Android as its operating system, and that's really what I wanted from this experience. So I knew that this was gonna be the right choice, even though it was a bit pricier. However, I did not wanna go all the way to like the Boox Palma, which is the really popular like phone-sized device that does a lot of different things. And also there's like color versions of this, and I just don't see myself reading anything in color or needing that, since I'm literally just gonna be reading ebook text on this device. So I really just wanted a device that was going to be able to use Libby and that had an e-ink display so that my eyes don't hurt. So that led me to this one. This is the Boox Go series. And the Go series is like smaller and more compact and also simpler. There's not a lot going on with the device. So that's the one I chose. So without further ado, let's unbox it. Okay, I'm using my phone camera for this clip, so just ignore any audio inconsistencies, but this is the box. So when we go ahead and open it up, that is what the inside looks like. It's so cute. Comes in this little protective sleeve. Oh, it's so cute. It's so little, which is exactly what I wanted. Let's turn it on. It comes with, looks like just a charging cable in here, and then something to remove like the little SD card slot. Okay, so now that all of the basic setup is done, this is what the home kind of screen looks like. There's a store tab. I need to turn the Wi-Fi on, so I need to do that. And then storage, apps, and settings. So I'm going to download Libby and get the Wi-Fi set up, and then I will come back to talk to you. Okay, people, we have everything set up in Libby. Looks like I am able to access all of my books because I added all 3 of the library cards I have access to. So everything is here in the app. The screen and like the display look really nice so far. There is some ghosting happening, and I know that that's normal, but I definitely need to like play around with the settings a little bit to figure out what's going to make the most sense for me. Also, the battery has gone down like 6% in the last few minutes that I've been downloading things. So I need to charge this and see once it's at full charge and I'm just like reading, not downloading anything, it should be better. But I have added my Wi-Fi, I've signed into Google, but that's pretty much all the setup I need to do. Now I can just kind of futz around with the settings as needed and just start reading. So I've got an ebook already here so that I can try it out. So I'm gonna do that and see what it looks like on here. So there she is. There's definitely some ghosting, like I said, but I'm gonna work on that, figure out the settings that I like. So yeah, that is what the display looks like, and that is my little unboxing portion of this video. Okay, so I have unboxed and set up my e-reader, the Boox Go 6. I have a book loaded up on Libby here to hopefully start reading soon to get an idea of how I feel about the experience. The basic setup was totally fine, putting my Wi-Fi in, everything like that, totally fine. But then getting the like Libby app loaded up and syncing the data, I could not for the life of me figure out how to sync everything. But luckily, I just was able to put my like library card information into the app and it synced everything up with my phone. So I didn't need to have like the sync feature work for me to actually get all the information off of it. And it had all the stuff downloaded that I already had borrowed. So it seems like it's working fine. So with the like configuration stuff, I have it on Regal mode. For now, I think that that looks the best for like just my preference. There is obviously going to be some ghosting involved, but this mode I think is like the least ghosty so far. But like as you change pages, obviously it like, you know, does the whole like e-ink thing where it's reorganizing all of the ink on the screen. So it doesn't always look like perfect when you turn the pages, but it's not bad. And then, you know, you can pull it down to like change the light on the front, make it darker or lighter to whatever degree you need, and then change the temperature, which is really nice. So right now it's kind of, you know, not all the way bright, but halfway or a little over halfway bright. And that seems to work pretty well for like normal lighting conditions. But it's nice to see that there's like different lighting that you can use. It's kind of a weird experience, I will say, just because I am so used to like the physical page. But I'm interested to see how I feel about it as I am like actually reading the text. So I think I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just reading this and also probably going to charge it since it came down to 67%. And when I got it, it was like 70 something. That is my initial thoughts and my initial setup review of the process. So I am really excited to start reading and yeah, see how I feel about it. Oh, other side note, I actually did purchase a like sleeve for this device. And as you can see, it is quite large. I will definitely still be using this just because I need to take it on the plane and I'm gonna have it in a big like backpack anyway, so it doesn't really matter if it's kind of like flopping around in there. But probably not the best size for this device. However, it is super, super cute and I will definitely use it for other, you know, paperbacks and things like that as well, because the book sleeve that I have is kind of falling apart. So definitely will still be using it. It might even work to just slide it in this front pocket and then have a paperback like in here. Probably that would work better, even though like it possibly could fall out, I guess. But if this is just like in a backpack, it should be fine. So yeah, it fits perfectly in this little slot, so I could just take this whole thing with me in my backpack and then my e-reader and any physical books that I read will be protected. But yeah, super cute Barnes & Noble mushroom book sleeve, but definitely too big for this purpose, but it'll be okay. Okay, so wanted to pop in for a little update on my e-reader. So I have had this for 24 hours at this point. I got everything set up, I charged it, and I made it, looks like 60 pages into the first book that I am reading with this, which is called The Hearing Test. And so far I've read it mostly in just like normal, bright reading conditions indoors. So I charged it up to 100 and I read for about an hour yesterday after I charged it. It had been on and off as I was like downloading things, and then I, turned it on this morning and it's at 88%. So I don't think that the battery on this is as good as some of the other e-readers that I've heard about. I've heard like things like the Kindle just have a really, really amazing battery life, and because this is running Android, it does not have as good of a battery life. But that's not something that's like overly concerning to me personally, because I think realistically, I would probably just return home and charge it in between if I was taking it somewhere. And if I'm taking it on a longer trip, I would just bring the cord. So my experience reading with this so far has been really good. It's a really nice size and shape. It feels good to hold. The screen is perfectly fine. I've never had an e-reader or used an e-reader before, so it is a little bit different than what I'm used to, obviously, with a page or with like a phone screen, but my eyes weren't tired reading it. I didn't have any problems. It just felt like a pretty standard reading experience. There is some ghosting, but not a ton of ghosting after I messed around with some settings and I was able to kind of get the refresh rate the way that I wanted it and, get some ghosting to go away. So overall, I think once you like figure out the settings, it works very well. I haven't had any like complaints or problems with it so far. What I will say is I want to put this through a couple of tests that are not just, can I read this sitting on my couch in bright light? So I thought that it would be helpful to test the e-reader out by trying it out in different use cases, because there were certain things that I bought it thinking that it would work well for. So one of those things is reading in bed. I want to try reading in bed because I really want to try to reduce my like phone time right before bed. And I think that it will feel a lot easier to pick this up as opposed to bringing a book up there and the awkwardness of holding a book while lying down and not being able to like read on my side or anything like that. So I want to try this in bed. I also want to see how it does in the dark, and I think I'm going to probably have to like orchestrate that because realistically I don't need to read in the dark right now. But I'd like to know how it performs in the dark and whether this screen looks okay in the dark, because I can see myself using that going forward. Next, I want to take this outside and see how it performs in the heat and whether the screen is hard to look at right in direct sunlight. Typically when I try to read outside, I struggle with how bright the pages are and my eyes can't really adjust, and so I have to be in the shade. So I'd like to see how this performs in the sun, whether the device overheats, how the screen looks in the sun, and I think that that will be a helpful measure of how I feel about it. And then finally, the biggest test of how this performs to me personally is how I feel about it on the go. So I'm leaving for New York in only a couple of days, and I'm gonna be taking this on the flight and throughout my trip, and I'm basically bringing only one physical book with me through this whole 2.5 week trip. And I want to basically see how I feel about traveling with an e-reader. Is it more convenient? Is it easier? How do I feel about it? Because I think that that's one of the biggest use cases for me, is just taking this on the go, whether it's a big trip or a small trip. So I will take you along with me for that and see how I feel about it while I am traveling. But the first test that I want to try out is whether my e-reader will fit into my Baggu crossbody bag. This is typically the bag that I bring everywhere. So I thought it would be fun to see how this fits and how portable this thing really is. Okay, moment of truth. Ta-da! It fits perfectly in here with everything else that I have in this bag. It still fits perfectly. To me, that is incredibly convenient because typically if I'm bringing a book with me, I then have to bring a tote. And I don't always bring a book with me if I'm just going somewhere for a brief period of time. If I'm going to a coffee shop and I know I'm gonna sit for a while and I'm like having a whole day of reading or something, then I will bring physical books. Or if I'm going to book club or something like that. However, if I'm just popping out for an errand or an appointment or whatever, and I presumably, I'm gonna have wait time, I would typically just pick up my phone and use it there. But if I can just put this in my bag and essentially leave it there all the time when I don't need to charge it and such, then I can have a book on the go at all times, and I can sort of replace some of that screen time in between things with reading. And for me, replacing phone screen time is a really important part of why I bought this in the first place. So the fact that it is so portable that I can just throw it in my crossbody bag and bring it with me is awesome. So very long and rambly chat, but those are the ways in which I want to test this product, and I will take you along with me as I do so. Okay, please excuse the terrible quality, but I am reading in bed, and I want to confirm that reading on an e-reader in bed is absolutely the elite strategy for reading. And I think that this is twofold. I think that it's easier to hold and use an e-reader while in bed rather than trying to awkwardly hold a book. And maybe this is just because we're so used to holding our phones in bed, and it feels a lot more normal to like have this, and it's smaller and there's not like awkward, holding of an open book essentially, or like a hardcover. So I think that it's a lot easier to hold in a lying down position. But also, I think that I just don't think about carrying books upstairs into my bedroom. And maybe that's just me, but it feels a lot easier to pick this up instead of my phone to read rather than just scrolling aimlessly or watching YouTube or something. And technically I'm still looking at a screen, right? But like, one of the reasons that I wanted to get this was because I wanted to reduce phone time and kind of reallocate that into reading time. So I think having this be something that is small and something that I can just leave on my bedside table, just feels really conducive to picking it up instead of my phone. And also, I kind of have a thing where I don't like leaving my books in random places. I tend to return my books to their homes, like whenever I'm not reading them. And I guess I have a thing about like leaving my book up here, especially because I have water on my bedside table. Again, this could totally just be me and my idiosyncrasies, but it just feels a lot easier to bring this upstairs with me and to read it in bed. So for that reason, I think that it works really well for reading in bed. Okay, I am here to give my final thoughts on the e-reader that I purchased, the Boox Go 6. and talk about my experience with e-readers overall. So I actually just recently got home a few days ago from my trip, and you'll have seen some clips of me traveling and reading with the e-reader as I'm going about my days. And currently I have read a full book on this. I finished Monstrilio on this, and I am about 30% of the way through Hungerstone. So I have read quite a bit on this device so far, and here are my takeaways. So overall, I really enjoyed the experience of reading on an e-reader, and also very glad that I purchased a Boox Go 6. I think that the cost for this device is reasonable in the sense of how much it does and how great it is that it integrates with Libby so perfectly. I was able to set this up with Libby fairly easily, and I had been using Libby exclusively to find ebooks on it. So even though it was a bit pricey in comparison to the Kindle, I think that it was worth it for what I need this device to be. In terms of how this device is when traveling, I am super pleased with that. That was kind of one of the main things that I wanted to focus on in this video, because I was about to go on this big trip when I purchased this. I plan on continuing to use this in travel days, whether I'm just going somewhere for a day trip, whether I am doing an overnight somewhere, whether I'm going somewhere for multiple weeks, whatever the travel situation is, as long as I have something queued up to read on this, it is super convenient. It fits easily in my small purse, and it also fits easily into the outside pocket of my backpack when I'm traveling. I can easily, tuck it away when I am on the plane, pull it out easily, tuck it away again when I need to. It's very lightweight. It's very easy to hold and read in my hand. It didn't strain my wrists or bother me the way that sometimes hardcovers do. I actually had someone on the plane ask me about it and say it was really cool, so it kind of started up a conversation, which was nice too. And I just found the experience of using it while traveling seamless, smooth. I never had any battery problems. To be honest, the battery lasted for quite a while. I've heard a lot of complaints about battery life for the Boox devices, and maybe I just didn't read so much that I wore down the battery life. But for my needs and my use case of this device, I found it to be plenty of time and battery life, and I'm pretty good about remembering to charge things. So it really didn't bother me to have to charge it, partway through my trip. Honestly, I had used it throughout my trip, and towards the end of the trip, I charged it, and it was at about 40% when I charged it. So it hadn't even gone down to 0 or close to 0. So I found the battery life to be perfectly fine for my needs and my uses. So now talking about some of the other use cases that I specifically wanted to test. So reading it in bright, direct outdoor light is no better or worse than reading a regular, physical book in bright, direct outdoor light. For me personally, I have light eyes, and I struggle to look at that brilliant white paper when outside, and I struggle to read without sunglasses while I'm outside in direct lighting. So I tried reading with the e-reader outside, and it was pretty much exactly the same as it would be on a page, which is to say that I did not enjoy it. So that I don't think is the fault of this device, and it didn't make me feel like I disliked the device at all. It felt like it perform very similarly to a book, and that's really what I was looking for in terms of the experience of actually reading with it. So I can't fault it too much for that. However, on the flip side, reading in the dark was much better than the experience of trying to read a physical book in the dark. The light on this thing can be super dim or super bright, and I found it very easy to turn off the light and read this without hurting my eyes. I was able to take my glasses off and read, closer to my face, because I can see close to my face without my glasses. So I was able to just lay in bed, lay on my stomach in bed, whatever I needed to do. I could be in any position and read this in the dark, and it did not bother me whatsoever. So I think that is a really great use case if you're someone who wants to wind down for bed, or maybe you have a baby or small child that you don't want to wake up, or a partner that you don't want to wake up while you're reading. I don't think that it's really annoying or too bright. However, it still allows you to read without turning on, the big light. So I think my final conclusions about this device and e-reader specifically is that I find them to be very convenient, very useful, and overall I am very happy with my experience of using this e-reader. It surprises me a lot because I've always been firmly a fan of physical books and the experience of reading physical books. However, after experiencing the e-reader, the convenience, the access to library books, all of those things, I think that I will be continuing to incorporate the e-reader into my reading life. Even if I'm not traveling, I plan on continuing to read my physical books and to use the e-reader and use my phone for audiobooks. I think having more ways to read is actually a really good thing, as opposed to, limiting myself in how I want to consume books, because having all of these different ways to consume books allows me to have books whenever and wherever I need to. So overall, I really enjoyed reading with my e-reader, and I'm really glad that I gave it a try. Let me know what you think about e-readers in the comments below. Are you pro or against e-readers? What has your experience been like with e-readers? If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.